All right.
Hello,
Hello.
Thomas.
Hey, Josh. Welcome to BoM Talk.
Bomb talk. RM bomb talk.
Yeah, my wife was like, you got to change the name. So I came up with Book of Mormon Battle Talk. BoM Battle Talk.
Bomb battle talk.
BoM Battle Talk.
Bomb battle talk. Bomb battle talk.
Welcome
That's what we
back,
do.
everyone. Well, this is episode 3, right?
Yes, episode 3 of a 20-part series.
The 20-part series. For those of you that are still here, thank you, if anyone's here.
You and me are here, Thomas. That's all that matters.
Yeah, we're here. And we, Josh, what are we talking about today? Alma
The
57?
Alma 57. Please turn with me to Alma 57.
Alma
The Battle
57.
of Cumeni or Cumeni.
Cumeni. I had my wife look at the pronunciation guide with me because she knows how to read those things. It's Cumeni.
Cumeni. It's a very interesting one.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Well, maybe just to reset the stage real quick,
Yes.
right? We are starting year 5 of the war, of the 7 Years' War. We are still in an attritional phase. We don't exactly know when this battle took place. We're about to talk about in the year 5, Reign of Judges 29, year 29. We don't know when this all went down, but sometime in 29, year 29. Just the previous year, right, Josh? The Lamanites had abandoned Antipara, and Helaman occupied it. And again, we're still in this attritional phase. This is the southern, we call it the Southern Front. And when it comes to attritional wars, I think there's 2 primary things to remember, and it's food and manpower, at least anciently, right? And I think both of those themes come up a lot.
This one definitely has some interesting moral questions that come in,
Yeah.
especially around
Yeah.
prisoners of war. It's very interesting how they talk about it. But before we get into that, I was like, the Southern Front, very much attritional, like you're saying. We felt like it was a stalemate, but then the Stripling Warriors came. They had the Battle of the Wilderness ish.
I call it Battle of the Wilderness.
Battle of the
Yeah.
Wilderness somewhere with the 2,000 Stripling Warriors come in and Antipas gets killed. Anyway, we talked about that last episode. And so this one, we're going to talk about, okay, now Helaman has kind of solidified himself there. He's now the master and commander of the area, the chief captain, right, of the area.
Of this front. Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you feel like the previous battle broke the stalemate, or do you feel like it's still in a stalemate?
I mean, I think it broke the stalemate, like because the momentum is still with the Nephites, right? Just the
Momentum is with the
previous year,
Nephites. Yeah.
the Lamanites abandoned Antipara because of a manpower shortage. And
Yeah.
the Nephites had the advantage, so they got to get that city. And I mean, here in verse 6 and 7, Helaman receives what, 6,000 more Nephite reinforcements, and another 60,000 stripling warriors. So 6,060 more men, right?
Plus the provisions that come with them.
Plus provisions. So this group of reinforcements that just arrived, I mean, basically, Helaman takes these reinforcements and he keeps going. It's very interesting that Helaman does that. The moment he gets reinforcements, and I think Antipas would have done the same thing. Like both Antipas and Helaman strike me as like very assertive and aggressive commanders. You know, they didn't get those 6,000 men and say, "Sweet, now we can just sit here." No, they get these men and they pick the next target, which is Cumeni,
Yes.
the next city in line. A few other interesting tidbits I thought of here was this group of reinforcements. This is about 3-ish years since the original Stripling Warriors arrived.
Really?
The original,
Wow.
yeah, it's about 3 years later, and I mean that's enough time for a few young men to grow older. They got 60
Yeah.
more.
The teachers
Right.
turned to priests, right?
Teachers turned to priests. Well, in this case, deacons turned to priests.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, and then it's 2-ish years since the last set of reinforcements, which were just Nephites last time. Did some arrive in between? Don't know. But last time it was just 2,000. This time it's 6,000, so 3 times as many. And again, when this attritional phase, the Nephites seem to be they're pumping out more men. They're able to funnel these supplies.
War
and
machine
provisions.
has begun. It is
Yeah, which is critical. I guess my next question is why Cumeni?
Why Cumeni? Well, I mean, right after he gets them in verse 7, it came to pass that our desire to wage a battle with the army which was placed to protect the city of Cumeni. So they got the reinforcements, and they're right in verse 7. Our desire was to wage battle with the army which was placed to protect Cumeni, or Cumeni. And I feel like it's been, they go after wherever the biggest army is of the Lamanites. So, right, so far on the southern front, they've been trying to get the cities back. And I always envision it of like a linear view of like the Lamanites came in, took a bunch of land, and now the Nephites are coming back and taking them back one by one in the reverse order. I bet that's not how it actually looks. But
yeah, I think I disagree there. I think.
Yes. What do you think?
I think there's two entrances to Zarahemla in this front. One's on the West Sea, which is where the city by the sea and I think Antipara are. And they've secured Antipara. Now the next one is Cumeni Manti entrance, right? There are previous battles in the Book of Mormon where the enemy army comes in through Manti. There's lots of battles actually around Manti from Lamanites coming into Zarahemla. So I don't think it's quite linear, but I think there's two entrances, right?
So the previous battle of the Wilderness, it happened where the two entrances kind of joined, you're saying?
Yeah, I would say so.
And then Helaman was like, hey, we're going to secure Antipara. We got that. But now we have to secure the Manti entrance, the Cumeni entrance.
Right. And in this case, I think it's linear now because you can't take Manti without taking Cumeni, right? I think it's just next in line as far as that part. Yeah. So just a slight disagreement, but yeah, that's what I think. Anyway, so Helaman gets these 6,000 guys and he's going to Cumeni. And by the way, good for Helaman again, because last time he went on the offensive, the last episode, it was a near disaster.
Yeah.
But he's going for it again.
I do feel like he learned a lot in the last battle, and since he's been here, I'm sure we'll get into it, but to me, the last battle that we had, he had no scouts. Like, his reconnaissance was pretty awful. And he was like, should we turn around? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Where are the Lamanites? It's like, where's your scouts? Like, go find out. But this one, even starting in verse 9, like, they camped around about the city for many nights. They slept upon their swords. They knew what was coming. They knew that some provisions were coming to Cumeni for the Lamanites. They're like, hey, we're going to get in front of this. So I feel like Helaman, like, hey, let's get some recon going on here. And he set up a really good siege.
Right. And funny enough, so I did a little bit of research. There's laying siege to a city, but there's also this term called investing a city.
Okay, I haven't heard of this.
So they're usually interchangeable, like siege, investment, whatever. But I think there's a slight technical difference. So like to invest a city is you surround the enemy and basically you prevent the flow of supplies and people and usually communication too. Like this is much harder than you think, right? But it's like if you were to put a giant plastic bag around the city. You're
suffocating the city.
You're investing it. It's invested, you know.
You sound like Brandon Sanderson, the invested. Anyway, that's a cosmic
investiture.
Term. Investiture.
And I think a siege, one way to think about it is you conquer and subjugate the city. You're not just putting a seal around it, but you're actually smashing it open with a hammer. Like you're breaking in,
attacking it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think technically you could siege a city without investing it. You could also invest a city without sieging it. You know what I mean?
Right. Square, rectangle type deal. Long time no siege, right? From Age of Empires.
Long time no siege. And
okay.
I'm probably making a bigger deal about it than it actually is. But
that brings me to my question of how do you think this siege or investment looked? Like, is this a walled city? Is this a collection of houses? Is this a collection of farms that they're just like cutting? Is there mountains on one side?
Right.
You know, like what does this look like? How many people do you need to surround a city?
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on, there's a scale, right? There's a giant city with a giant wall, and you surround the city.
Yeah.
Right?
But I don't think there's many of those at all. Maybe Zarahemla, if that.
maybe Zarahemla. I think there's also a chance that when they say a city is fortified, it has a fort. Like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna scoot to the other end, kind of like how medieval castles would work. Perhaps that was it. I mean, actually, I have some notes here on that. So what was the purpose of a castle? It would house garrisons rather than entire populations of a city. It would control roads and strategic points, and it was just a defensible base for sorties or for local operations. So that could have been what it's like. I think the main thing that nukes that theory on for us is Heelman's letter explicitly says just a city several times. It
It's
doesn't
just
say
a
like a
city.
fort or anything, but maybe it was. Maybe we're just
Yeah.
misreading it.
I mean, it could be translation, right? Of what?
Yeah,
Because they call everything a city. Like, we captured the city of Bountiful. It's like, captured the city of Annapara. Like, are all of these walled encampments? I would wager no. Unless it's the ones that are on the border that Moroni fortified. Those,
right.
I would assume, have ditches and mounds of earth and some fortifications. But I, I'm just so curious, like, what did this place look like? And how did they cut it all off from?
Yeah, and because here's the thing, it's hard to invest a city if
Yeah.
it was that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for example, I was looking into this in the Third Punic War when the Romans were sieging or trying to, when they were sieging Carthage. It actually took them 2 years before they could invest it. That now Carthage was by the sea, which is super hard to invest.
Yeah.
Like
You got to
even World War
it.
Two, even World War Two, they couldn't invest Leningrad. The Nazis couldn't invest Leningrad. They could still get supplies through the lake by Leningrad. It's just hard. But even landlocked cities can be difficult. There's the story of Julius Caesar in Gaul, in Alesia. He actually built walls around the city. So it was you had the city Alesia, and then Julius Caesar built walls around that city to invest it, and then he actually built another set of walls to to counterattacks from outside, like tons of walls.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it can get pretty crazy.
Yes.
Here in Cumeni, to your point, it's like, what does this look like? Maybe all Helaman had to do was just camp at a ravine, at the top of a ravine, because that was the only entrance. So we don't know. There's a lot.
I
It could
mean,
be a lot of
he
things.
did just get 6,000 men, and it doesn't take a
Right.
lot to just like put those guys around in a circle, right? So it could just
Yeah.
be that, and they weren't there for very long. It doesn't sound like they slept for many nights. They slept upon their swords, verse 9. And then number 10, at length the provisions did arrive, which apparently he had reconnaissance beforehand. Somehow he knew they were coming. And then they get all the provisions from the Lamanites that were supposed to come to them.
Right. I think the timing was no accident, to your point. I think Helaman,
He knew.
and I think he explicitly said this in the letter, like, he pounced around the city, invested it, when he knew they were about to receive more supplies.
Yes.
When it comes to this resupply force that the Lamanites sent, right? It's true that Helaman caught it. They got it, right? I think one theory, which I lean toward, is this resupply column just had no idea what was happening at Cumeni. Like, probably that resupply column had poor recon, the Nephites had good recon. I think they were just unsuspecting, right? And the
Yeah.
Nephites knew exactly where they were coming, and so they pounced on them. Now, our good friend David Spencer, he has a different theory. He
Yes.
actually thinks this resupply was a desperate move by the Lamanites. Oh, quick, we gotta get supply to this place. Hence, why they were trying to resupply at night. you know,
Yeah.
You
Did
know,
they come
perhaps-
at night? Yes.
yes, it did say they came at night.
They were into the city by night. Maybe they're trying to sneak in,
I mean,
And it's
and
like,
maybe,
what did
Go
the
ahead.
column look like? Was it people pulling hand carts? Like, was it people with a bunch of packs on their backs? Like,
Yeah.
What? I just want to know logistically, like, how did this look? Like, Dan Carlin always says that. I just want to get a hot air balloon and just like hover over and see, like, how did these battles work? How did these things work?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is one of the battles we have the least information
Yeah.
on.
We got nothing.
you know.
We got nothing.
Oh, well, and another thing, and David Spencer, he actually, well, and sorry, going back to his theory of this was a desperate move. Like, I guess maybe a Lamanite messenger could have left Cumeni, but I don't know. I
That's
just
true.
feel like the timing, it doesn't feel right to me. But Another thing David Spencer thinks is that he thinks Helaman actually did a Julius Caesar and built some kind of fortification around Cumeni in the effort to invest it. And I think I think it's in verse 11, because when the supply column arrives at night, it says, "We, instead of being Lamanites, were Nephites." And so he's supposing like they thought they were arriving at the city. And how could they think that
like
unless the
city.
Nephites had built a fake gate or something? Anyway, I'm not as convinced, but perhaps, we'll let the listeners decide if it was a desperate move or if it was just an unsuspecting column that they picked up.
And verse 11 is interesting because it's right after they pick it up and being cut off from their support after this matter, they were determined to maintain the city. Therefore, it became expedient that we should take those provisions and send them to Judea and our prisoners to the land of Zarahemla. So they captured the provisions from the Lamanites. They're like, hey, we don't need these. We're going to send it off to the fork, or I guess the land before Zarahemla. Judea. And then they're going to send the prisoners to Zarahemla. So what group of prisoners is this? Is it just the column?
I think it's just a supply column.
Okay, so it's not that big of a deal to send them up. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps it wasn't that. Yeah, there weren't many.
Okay,
and they didn't need the supplies. I mean, it mentions at the start of this, Helaman only sent, a part of his strong force is what Helaman's using. The Nephites must be swimming in men, I guess, right now.
They got to keep Antipara, and they're going to take this one too.
Yeah, so not many more days after that, the garrison in Cumeni, they surrenders. They lose all hope of succor.
Yes.
What's interesting to me is there's no mention of, going back to our other discussion of, was this a fort or was this actually a city? There's no mention of a Nephite civilian population.
Yeah, where's the civilians?
Yeah. I mean, there could be reasons. Perhaps they all fled and evacuated. So Cumeni is 100% Lamanite military, maybe. I mean, the garrison is heavily reliant on resupply, so there's not any local Nephite farmers to leverage. There's no local hinterland to supply yourself, perhaps, because they
got surrounded. Resupply. All the surrounding farms, they're going to Nephites now. Like, hey, you're back. Here's my food. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But well, they were reliant on resupply, so there weren't any Nephite farmers at all.
That's true.
I would think. If there had been citizens, if I were the Lamanite garrison, I would have. I guess I'm a vicious person, but I would have done some blackmail. Or
them to death, if leave us alone, we'll kill all these people.
Though, perhaps it's kind of a vicious cycle if you start doing that, because then Helaman could have done the same thing with the men he just captured.
Yeah, and Helaman originally wanted to, or Ammoron wanted to do an exchange of prisoners. So Helaman already has a bunch of prisoners, and then he gets more from the provisions and so Helaman is swimming in men, but he's also swimming in prisoners. So no, I don't know where these feelings are.
The Lamanites would have less leverage, right?
Yes.
But to your point, it's perhaps illogical to execute people because they have this system of trading prisoners, so that's probably illogical. Another interesting theory is perhaps Amalekite and Ammoron, when they started this whole war, they gave orders to be benevolent conquerors. That's why they're not blackmailing Nephite citizens. To try to endear more Nephites and kingmen to their side against the Moroni regime, I'm kind of going off on a tangent now, but just interesting to think about.
Rebel Nephites who like the Lamanites.
Anyway, so the garrison surrenders.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden,
verse 13
has a ton of prisoners. Yeah.
Yes. We were obliged to employ all our force to keep them or to put them to death. Those are your two options.
Yeah.
You either hang on to them and don't do anything else, or you kill them and move on with your campaign.
And unfortunately, it seems like Helaman stalled in making a decision at all.
That is a very difficult choice. I don't know what I would do. I have no idea.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, I don't think he made any decision for a few days. And in that time, there were strained provisions, strained Nephite soldiers, and violence erupted. Revolts erupted.
The Lamanites may not have been fed. It's like, we got to feed the Nephites first. We don't know what to do with you. And the Lamanites say, we're hungry. We're going to come kill you. Then they revolt, right?
Right. And so it's like Helaman, he's not in a good position right now, actually. He's in an unsecure area. Again, there's violence erupting. He has to employ all his force to guard the ones he has. And I actually asked ChatGPT, like the difficulties with prisoners, and it actually hit on all the points that Helaman mentions. Like, all these prisoners, they're hard to feed, they're difficult to guard, and they're dangerous to have.
They will kill you.
But not only that, like, they may be there and an enemy relief force could arrive. Yeah. Then you're in huge trouble, right? Yeah. And like we've alluded to, it was very common practice in ancient war just to kill them.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like cruelty. It was mostly just cold, calculated logistics.
Logistical. You gotta kill them. I mean, even in like more modern warfare, right? Did that happen in World War II on some of the fronts? Of like,
I mean, it was difficult. I mean, unless you're on the Eastern Front, they would just kill themselves.
Yeah,
you know. But I think more in modern war, they do kind of go for the capture prisoners in exchange. Like I'm thinking of Ukraine and Russia right now. They do that a lot. I don't know. I've never been in a war, but
never been in that situation.
I would say anciently, like there's examples. Agincourt, when Henry V was in France. They had a bunch of French prisoners and they executed a lot of them immediately. Perhaps some of the 2,000 that were killed were kind of like some of the ringleaders for these revolts, and perhaps they were executed. Maybe some of those 2,000s were executed. That's a strong assertion by me, but, you know, maybe.
Take out the ringleaders or whatever.
Okay, so eventually, Helaman does select one of his men, Gid, to wrangle what's left of these prisoners and start sending them off to Zarahemla, right?
Yes, verse 15. Therefore it became expedient for us that we should put an end to their lives or guard them sword in hand down to their Zarahemla, along with provisions for that column of people. And so they chose to do that. Gid goes off.
Gid goes off. Gid gets going.
Gid gets going. In BoM battle talks.
So now what's happened is since that first relief force was captured, there's been enough time to pass for the garrison to surrender. There's been enough time for a few revolts to happen and 2,000 people to die. There's been enough time for these prisoners to be escorted out. And all I'm getting at is I think there's enough time for Amron to have received a message, wrangle a relief force, and send it off. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, because it could be like the Lamanites who revolted. I bet many of them left. They like got out, you know. They could have got out. They went over to Amron and be like, Amron, guess what? They can't keep us. Like, you go now, you could really turn things around, right?
Yeah, that could happen. I think that would be fast. I lean more towards. I think someone snuck out during Helaman's investment. Like I think that was very easy to get a message out. That would make more sense to me, but maybe not.
Some more recon, and then the Amron is coming to relieve Cumeni. Already.
Cumeni. Oh, you said it right. Cumeni.
Cumeni.
Okay, and so the relief force arrives. Okay, and it's large. And the first thought I had was Helaman just dodged a huge bullet in that he didn't have the prisoners with him at the same time the relief force arrived.
Right. Because it's the day before, verse 17, right? The next day after they send the prisoners off.
Oh, it was the next day.
It's the very next day. But it came to pass on the morrow they did return. So the next day, Amron comes in with a massive force to attack Helaman.
So and massive luck. Massive luck for Helaman.
Massive luck, but also unlucky what the heck, Helaman? Learn about your recon and understand when the force is coming. Like you did so good.
He wasn't watching.
You did. Come on, Helaman.
Maybe the point against
bigger fish to fry.
Okay. Here's my first question. This relief force arrives, and it's big. Why didn't Helaman just run into the fortifications of Cumeni? Why do you think, Josh?
I don't think there were fortifications in Cumeni.
Oh, that says there was.
What fortifications? No, I think it was just there were no fortifications. Where does it say fortifications?
Oh, come on. It says it in there. They camped about the city. No, maybe it doesn't
I
say
think
it.
they only mentioned city. I'll control F. Fort. Who the Antipar to leave the city and fled to other cities which they had possession of to fortify them. Okay, so maybe they might have fortified, but it's not specifically mentioned that Cumeni was fortified.
All right, that's a fair. All right,
But
okay,
if
maybe.
it was, what's your thought? Why didn't he just if it was fortified? Why didn't he just go back in?
Well, I guess the first one, he may not have had time. Like you said, he didn't have good recon, and you don't have time to pick your men up and funnel them through a gate or whatever.
Yeah.
Or all his provisions are still outside the city. If he would have gone in, what just happened to the garrison would just happen to him. He would get starved out.
Yeah.
Fortified locations have their purpose, but there are limits to their utility. Remember last time, the patent quote? Fixed fortifications are monuments to men's stupidity. So this theory about mobility is greater than static defense. Perhaps that's why. But he didn't. And they start duking it out in front of the city.
I bet it's just mass chaos. Like,
you do.
I bet it's just crazy. Of like, oh my gosh, there's a massive Lamanite army attacking us. Like, the provisions are everywhere. We just sent off a bunch of people. Like, they're trying to organize themselves,
And maybe there's people arguing, let's get in the city.
Yeah,
no,
it's like, run away. It's like, what the?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because, people love in these verses here, in this chapter, there's some of the best verses about the Stripling Warriors, how they obeyed every word command with exactness. Yes. They were firm and undaunted. That's a great spiritual lesson. It is a great spiritual lesson.
Yes.
But there's actually huge military value to having such a unit in the situation you're describing.
That. Yeah. Of like the military value of verse 21, and they did obey and observe to perform every word of command with exactness. Like, that's very specific. And like, what does that do in a military if you have a unit that just does everything that you need to do immediately? Like, how valuable is that?
Yeah, I guess battles were often decided less by the raw numbers of people or the individual bravery of people and more by the unit cohesion, right? So the side that stays organized, that holds formation, that maintains morale under fear, usually wins. Like that is usually what happens. Because once the line breaks, and once the entire line breaks, like it's just defeat and slaughter, right? But discipline and unity, we talked about this last time, they're force multipliers, right? If you have an infantry unit that's worth 2, but they're cohesive and disciplined, they become worth 5, because they're an anchor.
And the rest of the Nephites knew these Stripling Warriors were awesome. Because none of them had died in the previous battle. Like that, everyone must have known that. And they're like, okay, we got to follow these Stripling Warriors. They're not breaking yet. We'll stick with them. Like, wherever they are, we'll go. So it's the rock of their army at this point.
Yeah, I think there are several other battles in history with examples of a rock unit that even with other sides falling or starting to break, the rock held it, and eventually it carried the day. And anyway, so the Stripling Warriors right now, they're the rock, and there's a big battle happening. I think now, Josh, we should switch the camera and move to
because it's very confusing how Helaman talks about this.
Yeah, he switches back and forth 3 times.
So timeline-wise, yes. So push pause. The Stripling Warriors are fighting their guts out and doing a great job.
Yeah.
Rewind to the day before.
Right. So, yeah, Gid is on his way to Zarahemla with these prisoners, these Ansi prisoners. And they come across Nephite scouts who have been watching for the Lamanite army, and they find Gid, and they cry out. They yell, "Hey, guess what?" Yeah, that part always cracks me up.
"Hey, Gid, guess what, man?"
"Hey." And guess who hears?
All the Lamanite prisoners.
All the Lamanites who have been revolting this whole time. Okay, and of course, they revolt. And they just run on the swords of the Nephites, and they all escape into the wilderness and spread out and whatever. So many die, but the rest escape, is what they say. And so Gid's men. They can't overtake them. And so they're like, well, let's go back to Cumeni. So they turn right around.
Well, Gid had a choice. It's like, do I do a manhunt or do I go back to Cumeni? Because I just found out that Cumeni is under attack by a massive Lamanite army. And so I think Gid made the best choice.
I agree. Because the scouts, theoretically, Helaman said the scouts told him they're about to destroy Helaman's army.
Yeah, Helaman's about to
that's a big issue. Yeah.
Because, going back to the scout issue, Helaman doesn't have scouts. Maybe those scouts got lost and they found Gid's army. Like, Gid, turn around, man. Like,
right.
They didn't get to Helaman, but they got to Gid instead. So maybe Helaman did have scouts and they got lost.
Fair point, perhaps. We don't know the terrain, right?
We don't. Yes. Oh, what's that quote? There's a quote. It's in Gettysburg.
I'm thinking of.
Like, we don't know.
I'm thinking of Avatar. Was like, we know these hills. We know what to do. And then they just charge straight into the. This is our land, and he just charges straight in. Stupid.
But
yeah, that's a good point. Perhaps these recon guys, they tried to get to Helaman, but they couldn't, and so they had to go around some mountain pass.
Find Gid and like, what are you doing, man? And they So yes,
sure
they should not have shouted so loud. They should not have shouted so loud so the Lamanites heard them. Like, just go to Gid, say, Gid, guess what? Here's what's happening.
Or maybe the scouts were up on a cliff and they had no choice but to yell it down from the great distance. Whatever. Either way, that's what happened. So the Lamanite prisoners, they're gone. They escape, and Gid goes back. And this is what's interesting. So Gid's men arrive, and I want to talk about shock value, like the value of shock in battles. So attrition and weight of numbers have their place in ancient battles, and what we talk about, cohesion, right? But so does shock. Sometimes a single moment can shock the other army and swing the outcome of a battle. So this is not just ancient stuff. This is semi-modern. Like, I'm thinking of the Civil War, the Battle of Antietam, or Sharpsburg if you're from the South. And I mean, this was the bloodiest day in American history, but near the end of the battle, Burnside, the Union general, finally crossed this bridge and was about to smash into Lee's army and was about to destroy it or take it out. But just as he was about to do that, this small army from A.P. Hill, after doing a 17-mile forced march in the hot sun, they slam into Burnside's flank, and that in the Union force there collapses instead from the shock of these men coming
out of nowhere.
And the Confederates survive the day, and the war goes on for another 2 years.
That's interesting to give that story, because I played. I told you about this Civil War, Ultimate General Civil War Battles. It's like a third-person, like RTS game.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the Battle of Antietam, and I was the South, and I was like fighting them off. But then Burnside's army came in from the flank.
Yeah, southern flank.
It totally destroyed me. And my AP Hill force that came in was too weak, because I was playing on like a really hard difficulty. And I was like, man, these guys are useless. Like, I can't do anything with AP Hill's army. They're not doing anything. Then Burnside just came in and just like destroyed me. It's like, well, there goes my campaign. Yeah. It's over.
What actually happened was AP Hill shocked them.
Yeah. Like,
despite what your computer said.
I'm like, come on, computer. Funny. Get history right. So.
I mean, that's not just the only one. There's another one between World War I and World War II, the Battle of Vistula in Poland, where it was essentially the same thing. The Russians were about to conquer Warsaw, but this small Polish force held in reserve, and they just stabbed it into the flank. And this massive Russian force just collapsed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Poland survived until World War II.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, and I think based off what Helaman has told us, he says that there were two things that helped them win this battle. Spoiler alert. One was the Stripling Warriors' cohesion, but two was the arrival of Gid and the shock value of that. So it's funny, rewinding to the last episode, the first Stripling Warrior battle, the Stripling Warriors, they were the shock in the last battle, but this time they're the rock.
They were the anvil to the hammer. Yes.
Yeah.
The unintentional anvil to the hammer. And that thinking about the scouts yelling out of like, Gid, watch out, and like causing that great disruption. If the scouts hadn't yelled that, Helaman's army would have been destroyed.
I want to get into that in the closing stuff.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. But yeah, hold that thought. So, again, Helaman wins the battle. The Lamanites run away. That's also important. They run away. They're not captured.
Yes.
This relief force runs away.
I think the Nephites are sick and tired of prisoners at this point, so they're glad to just run
maybe.
away. Like, go away.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Give us a breather.
But once again, Stripling Warriors, nobody died of the Stripling Warriors. 200 had fainted, but they came back, right? And funny enough, this battle that we just finished talking about, it's over. This is the only other battle that Stripling Warriors fight in, and that's it. That's the only. They're never really mentioned in a battle again. Yeah,
because the next chapter
is they liberate Manti, which we'll get into another podcast. But there's no battle at Manti.
No battle.
Yeah. Anyway, at least in the scriptures, they're not talked about again in battle.
It could be some skirmishes or whatever, but yes.
Yeah, maybe. Right? But anyway, for just being in 2 battles in this massive year of 7 wars, and it makes sense. They loom large, right? They're a big deal. Okay,
well, I
results.
think that's a good point. That's a good point about warfare. I think ancient warfare especially is like, it's not like constant fighting. It's like a few of these big clashes that determine the next year, the next 2 years, right? Of like what happens. So I'm not surprised there's not that many battles with them, because it's a lot of posturing, a lot of maneuvering. Anyway.
True. All right. Should we talk about results and implications of this battle?
Let's do it.
I want to start with the good things that happened for the Nephites. What's good? Cumeni is liberated. It's always good to have a city back. It's great.
Yes, check.
And the fortifications, which are probably there, Josh. Just kidding.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
The Lamanite manpower is slightly diminished. I really mean slightly. Okay, that's good. And I would say Helaman dodged another disaster yet again.
Helaman has, what is that, God's own luck? Or I guess he's the prophet, right? So you better have it.
Yeah.
Being watched out for. God is on his side.
Yeah, seriously. Again, no dissing on Helaman, but let's just call a spade a spade. Like, this was a near disaster yet again.
Yet again.
But he got pulled out of it, and he survived it. Now, let's talk about what's not so good. That kind of takes the wind out of the sails of this victory a little bit. I think one is the bulk of Lamanite manpower is still at large, right? Yes. The huge prisoners escaped, and this relief force also escaped. Those men are still there, right?
Yep.
And along with that, sure, Nephites got Cumeni, but this is yet another city they have to split their forces to defend and reduce their manpower.
And that was the problem that the Lamanites were having at the beginning of the war. Is now it's reversing. The Nephites now have to maintain more. And there's Lamanites at large. Who knows what they're doing? Are they going home? Are they bugging the citizens? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, still a big deal. The city's taken. These factors do hollow out the victory for me a little bit. Let's talk good things. Helaman, he didn't resort to like a costly frontal assault to liberate Cumeni. He maneuvered them into disadvantage.
Stratagems.
Yeah, that was great. It does stink that the logistical complications of prisoners almost caused this disaster and their eventual escape. And I think this battle and this point I'm making about how the manpower, Lamanites still have manpower, this is the start of a trend that's going to carry on for another year in this front, is where Helaman is able to liberate cities, but not contain the men, the Lamanite army. And this is going to come back to haunt the Nephites in a big way, actually. Spoiler alert. Okay, Josh, I think this is getting to what I told you to hold a thought. So here's an uncomfortable question. Looking back in hindsight, should Helaman just have executed all of those troublesome prisoners, as other ancient generals would have done?
Yeah.
Again, look how close he came to disaster.
Yeah, hindsight 2020, obviously he made the right choice, because because eventually Gid came back. They killed a lot of the prisoners anyway because they were rised up in rebellion. Anyway, Gid came back. I think the moral / ethical ramifications of doing that, especially if the Stripling Warriors were there, like the Stripling Warriors, the Lamanites could be their cousins, right? Their cousins from the last generation, right? So just like their great grandparents, like who knows? Their relatives. You're gonna say, hey, we're gonna kill a bunch of relatives in cold blood, right? At this point, if they were
it would change the paradigm.
It would totally change it, and I would see that as like super big crippling factor to Helaman's force if he were to do that. If he were to kill
like a massive escalation of violence.
Yeah, just the moral impact on the morale of the army of Helaman's army, which is very much God-centered because they have the prophet and they have the Stripling Warriors who super faithful, right? You can't be doing that. You can't be doing that kind of stuff.
Now, you are saying that, Josh, through the modern lens of 2026.
100% modern lens because Moroni, just a few years previous, executed a bunch of kingmen. Say the oath or die.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay. Yeah. So yes, I am my modern moral glasses. I'm like, yes, Helaman, he did the right thing.
Yeah. And what's funny too is I agree with you in hindsight. I guess I'd argue it wasn't the right military thing, maybe. At the very least, he should have decided quicker when he got those prisoners. He should have moved much more quickly.
Get out of here. Go.
Right. But I mean, you made this point. Like, I think his mercy is what enabled the Gid shock value that ultimately saved his army.
Well, okay. I think, to your point, he should have acted faster. Why do you have to go all the way back to Zarahemla? Why can't you just go to Antipara and have them fortify the city?
Step one.
Yeah, be like, hey, go back to Antipara.
I think Judah's closer. Judah is closer than Antipara.
Closer? Okay.
Think. Yeah.
I was like, just go somewhere and get them busy like Tianka made them fortify Bountiful. Ditches. Yeah. Like, go dig a ditch.
Keep them busy.
Wear them out. Keep them busy. Because they're just like sitting there and be like,
Although, interesting enough, I'm criticizing Helaman for not deciding quicker, but the fact that he delayed in deciding meant that Gid's force was close enough. It was just less than a day's march or whatever away.
Save them.
To come back.
But
this Helaman guy, he keeps making these military mistakes, but it works for his advantage.
It does. But if Helaman had more time, where he'd made the initiative and said, okay, go, he had days to prepare, would he have sent out scouts? Would he not?
No,
would he have been less disorganized? Be like, hey, we're going to fortify.
Yeah, maybe he could have ambushed the relief force instead of being ambushed himself. Fair point.
But okay. You bring a good point. Helaman, we need to have a chat with Helaman in the afterlife. Be like, let's talk. What happened, man?
Yeah, he'll probably say, guys, I still have no idea what I was doing, and neither would if you known what you were supposed to be doing. And he would be right.
Our armchair generals that are going to his what is it? His TED Talk in heaven.
Yes. Anyway, I think it's just cool that we have all these what ifs, because these same what ifs we're talking about apply to many other battles. Like, well, what if this? But then this implied this, and then it's just cool that. Again, we have very little details on this battle. Despite that, we still talked, almost 50 minutes about it. It's a short part of the War of 7 Years, but I think it's a very interesting chapter in this war.
And I think Helaman ends that epistle very well, where he's like, I was filled with exceeding joy because of the goodness of God in preserving us, that we might not all perish. Yea, trust the souls of them that have been slain, have entered the rest of their God. So Helaman is very aware of this could have been really bad. Thank you, Heavenly Father,
dude. And again, this just happened last year. His first battle, where it's near disaster. This next one, near disaster. And guess what he does the next year after this? He goes on the offensive again. Man, Helaman, he's a brave dude.
He's got guts.
I don't think I could do that.
He's got the Stripling Warriors.
He's got the Stripling Warriors. Maybe they give him the faith he needs.
Well, it's interesting because we look at these battles in Sunday school talk lessons or sacrament talks, and we're like, they were amazing. The Nephites did so well. And the way that we talk through these is like, holy crap, they made some awful choices. And like, I can't believe they survived, from the military perspective. But from the gospel perspective, they did great. So
Yeah. I mean, I think Amaron maybe made mistakes too. We just don't know as much details on his side, the Lamanite side.
They didn't keep records. Records.
Maybe they keep yeah.
They weren't the victors, so they didn't get to write the history.
Maybe honestly, Amaron, maybe he should have abandoned Cumeni just like he abandoned Antipara. Like, what strategic value was Cumeni for the Lamanites? Besides exposing and getting their garrison in danger. That's all.
I think if the garrison was still in Cumeni, it could have been really, and they could have linked up with Amron's forces that came in. They could have smashed Helaman together. Right. So, just by one day of Gid leaving,
that was close.
Could have been a toss-up.
All right, Josh, that was good. I have no further comments on this battle.
I have nothing else to say. I have nothing to say.
All right, well, we'll close this one up. Episode 3 of BoM Battle Talk. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Battle Cumeni. All right, bye, everybody.